All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of UFTA Premium. And in this week's series, we're going to talk about trading. You know, trading is the one aspect of UFTA that I've sort of neglected simply because I haven't had a regular group of playtesters that I can bounce some ideas off of. UFTA was created basically during COVID, which means a lot of reluctance to be around people. I've been in therapy for some of this stuff just to get reacclimated back into, communal society or civilization, really. It's been kind of an uphill struggle, which is ironic because, I've created, UFTA is my legacy project. I want it to outlive me and I want it to be passed on to future generations. So I've obviously want to make them aware of it. But the idea is, trading is the least developed part of UFTA. And so I wanted to go over that here. Currently, the only trading that happens, trades are available if you want to, just regular one-for-one trades on the in-between turns, the in-between phase of UFTA. However, the only other trade I can think of is the 3-for-1 trade, where you simply trade out 3 crops for one that's desirable from your drawback. Well, I'm going to expand the trading options, and I'm going to expand the trading rewards in order to kind of spice up the old social interactions, just to make sure they're feisty, fun, and memorable. So the idea is. I'm of the theory that the trading only happens when one person initiates it, and it inevitably results in a lopsided balance of power because the grower who initiates a trade usually is the one who has the most to gain, right? And so I've always been thinking, like, how can I make things even, or how can I improve that balance so that it's more likely that players will trade, right? And so this just gets back to goals, incentives, and motivations, right? And so what is my motivation to trade if I'm not the initiator? Well, one motivation is debt relief. We're looking at, here's our mighty 10 token. I've decided, originally I decided that a debt, like a solvency problem, a debt solvency program rather, would be apropos. And the idea is, every time there was a trade, if you agreed to it, you'd get 3 tokens knocked off of your debt. You just pull them out of the flight bulb and put them back into the bank. And so what I'm doing is I'm sweetening that deal. It's instead going to be 10 tokens, right? And so that's a substantial amount. That could be the difference between winning and losing at game's end. So considering the stakes, or considering how much you have to gain, then it probably makes sense to look at those trades and be more conducive to interact with your fellow growers and see what you can come up with together. So that's one aspect of trading that's going to get beefed up. The other aspect of trading is what I call the 2-for-1 and the 1-for-1 trades. And these are going to be solely the property of the person who initiates a trade. So, for example, let's say I'm ready to trade something. I go on out of my way to, let's say, give up something nice. Let's say beans, for instance. I want to give up my beans to somebody, and in return, they're going to give me something I might need otherwise. Let's say squash. If we're looking this direction, it's squash. So we get squash from then. I want the squash because it's directly across from the potatoes. Well, that's a good trade. However, they're going to get, in light of that trade, they're going to get 10 tokens knocked off of there. But in the meantime, the initiator is going to open up a 2-for-1 trade. And that 2-for-1 trade is available immediately. So what's a 2-for-1 trade? All it simply is if I happen to have 2 crops, which I do, I've got 2 kale and 2 spinach. Here's the kale. I'm just going to trade in the 2 kale and then grab whatever I want from the draw bag. Okay. And so that takes care of the 2-for-1 trade. And now, there's probably going to be a token. I'm thinking, how are you going to keep track of this, right? So I'm probably just going to have another token, same size as the coins. And that makes for easier manufacturing, right? I can get UFTA out to people more. It's more likely the easier it is to manufacture, right? So the idea is if I take the token and I'll just flip it, like one side says thank you, the other side says I'm hungry. Basically, it's just going to be a token that I'll probably write up in a program in the software that says it's going to be 1:1 on one side as a ratio and 2:1 on the other. So if I have the 2:1 ratio or 2:1 side up, that means of course I can trade 2-for-1. And then I flip it to the other side, that's a 1-for-1 trade. How do I get to a 1-for-1 trade? Well, I think the idea is simply that you trade again. You have to make at least 2 trades in order to activate that 1-for-1 side. And of course, the 1-for-1 trade is a better benefit overall, right? Because now you're talking about just swapping out whatever you want from the draw bag. Something akin to owning the greenhouse, but maybe it's cheaper. That remains to be seen, because you're giving up, you're allowing the other growers to have 10 tokens knocked off of their debt, right? And so that's a pretty sweet deal for them. But in return, of course, you're getting these trade deals, 2-for-1s and 1-for-1s, right? And so that hopefully should bring the goals, incentives, and motivations to the forefront in UFTA to allow for even more interesting, layered, and what do you want to call it? Intrepid conversations, interactions, and just general overall presentation of the game. So, all right. So with that, we're just going to go ahead and get started. Let me go grab the bag real quick. One thing I wanted to mention, a slight update with the fender doodles. It turns out that the fender doodles are going to be an activity to place. Previously I had it so that it was an action. If you want to place something somewhere, you always had to use up one of your actions, especially on productive farm rolls 4, 5, and 6. Well, in this case, when you put the fender doodles out, it's now going to cost merely an activity. It's a free activity. Okay, so that means you can deploy these on any die roll that allows for activities. So that would include die roll 2 and then 4, 5, and 6, right? Giving you the idea, of course, behind this is to simply give growers more options, more dynamism in their play, greater ability to respond to threats in the game, and just increase the overall pleasantness and variety of gameplay. So that's just a minor point I wanted to touch on before we get started. So this game's just going to briefly go over the new trade options. We're going to try to initiate trades as much as we can. Give us some debt. The debt. Most of us are familiar with debt. It's how to eliminate the debt. That's the real key to life, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So here's a 3, not going to gamble. So now we're in between phases, and grower A has decided they want something from other people. What's it going to be? Broccoli and cucumbers. Chard and corn, which are. Okay. So if we notice, grower A has potatoes and squash, but they want to add. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I got that wrong. Well, it could be radishes and carrots. One thing I haven't ironed out, and this might be a possibility for gameplay, is the idea of having a wraparound rule for the 2 and 3 crop combos, or 4 crop combos. The idea is the positions in the 7 and the 1 spot can wrap around to the positions of the 12 and the 6 spot, because they are sequentially next to each other, 7 and 6. And then 12, of course, we know wraps around to the 1 from the previous rule we had on die roll 2, right? So all of that should combine together to make a logically coherent game flow. And so we're going to just say potatoes and squash, radishes and carrots are up to bat. Each of these growers happens to have those things. And so I'm just going to ask for, I'm going to put my kale on the line. If anybody has carrots, or radishes rather, then they can have my kale. And it turns out both of these growers do in fact have the items that I want. And so I'm going to grab the radishes from here, and I'm going to grab the carrots from here. They're going to receive their kale. And so now we assess, after the trade, we assess what each grower can do. The person who initiated the trade is going to reap the benefit of a 2-for-1 trade. And I would take my token, we'll just say it's this 10 token. And I would take my token and I would turn it to the side that says 2-for-1. Okay. So now, in effect, if I had 2 of the same crop, which I happen to have, so see I have spinach. I can take those 2 spinach, take advantage of the trade opportunity, and draw what I want out of the bag. Which in this case is probably just going to be beans. Yeah. It's going to be beans. And then I'm going to add the beans to my weight cue tray. So I get rid of carrots. Or no, I want to keep the carrots rather. Okay, so that was a successful trade, but we haven't finished what happens to the growers who agreed to trade, because they're eligible for bonuses as well. And their bonuses are going to be 10 tokens knocked off of their debt in their flight bulbs. Right? So I'll just take out of here, return to the bank. Notice that the funds don't go to the growers, right? Because in that scenario, it's actually a 20-point swing instead of a 10-point, right? Because then I would be giving them back, adding to their 100 token amounts. Okay, so another 10 tokens back to the bank. And now finally the transaction of the trade has been fully realized, right? Because we've tidied up all loose ends from all growers' perspectives. Okay, so we're going to move on. Actually, that probably demonstrates everything I needed to right there. The only new function that we haven't gone over is the 1-for-1 trade. This grower is eligible for that. These growers are not, because you notice that they didn't initiate the trade. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to just say We've gone back around to my turn. I rolled a 5. Or it's right before my turn. It's the in-between phase, and we're gonna trade. And so we're gonna trade. Let's say beans. We'll give somebody our beans. They'll give us kale. Okay, so they gave us kale. And now, once again, this grower who received the trade or agreed to trade, they're going to have 10 tokens knocked off of their debt load, which anybody going to school absolutely loves. Debt relief, we're a fan, that's for sure. And then, after that, that's my train of thought. After that, okay, so that means this grower has the 1-for-1 trade, right? And so they're going to have kale. Let's say that's what they did. They're just going to decide, okay, I want to initiate a trade. Now notice that the 2-for-1 trade and the 1-for-1 trade are activities. That's an important point to bear in mind. So when it's your turn finally, you can either resolve that on the in-between phase, or you can resolve it on your turn, right? Either option is available. So here we have peas, maybe? What are we going to draw out here? Looks like we're going to trade in our squash. I don't know, something desirable. We're going to trade squash. Here's our trade. We're going to trade squash for chard. Because if you'll notice, we've got squash in the 1 spot, chard in the 9. So we keep the chard, and voila. So now you've discovered a way to improve your lot in the game, and it may not be as expensive as purchasing a greenhouse. So we'll see. Alright, so that's going to do it for now. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. All of the happy holidays, Saturnalia, are included. Whatever you're observing in the winter solstice, I hope you have warm, happy holidays. So, that's going to do it for now. Keep on playing Oop Day, everybody, until I see you next time. Bye.